Okay, just, we're gonna need 3 seconds after she goes live, so please bear with us. Three seconds will be necessary.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody to the October 4th Land Use Committee meeting for Community Board 1. I would like to see everybody on screen for this meeting. I appreciate it. It is one of the regulations also, if you're going to have remote connection to a community board or a committee meeting these days. So if you could please open up. My name is Elizabeth Arian. I'm co-chair with Jerry Caliendo of this committee meeting. And I would like to, let's see, we have tonight's agenda. We have 2 city planning items. One is a rezoning, which we, in the Dutch Kills area, within the industrial business zone, which we will be entertaining a rezoning from M11 to M15. This came before us in April, so it's and it's going to have its public hearing on the 19th of October. And the second item on the agenda for discussion is certification and a chair certification and an authorization for a fresh supermarket in Long Island City, also in Dutch Kills. I want to just mention who I want to take attendance before we go further. Is Sandy here, public member? No. Okay. Jerry is here. Katie Ellman. I'm here. Tyrone Gardner. Evie Hansopoulos.
I'm here.
Thank you. Amy Howe.
I'm here.
Brian Hunt. Jeffrey Martin is here. Richard Kazami.
I'm here.
Andre Milias.
I'm here.
Okay. Thomas Ryan is here.
Yeah.
Thomas Wright.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have just enough for a quorum. Okay. So, good evening. I'm glad to see you all here in spite of the delay. And we will get right to the first item of the agenda, the approval of the minutes. I sent you 2 to be looked at and reviewed for adoption. Are there any corrections? One was for September 6th last month, and another one was there was a slip up. You never got it, as far as my records show, for April 4th because of the problem with our May meeting being at the end of the month. I didn't put it on the agenda. I didn't take it up. So if there are any corrections, let me know. Otherwise, any objections? And they'll be adopted. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is, second item is the rezoning 2117 37th Avenue, C230306 ZMQ. who is doing that? Who is here for that?
I'd be doing the primary presentation with the applicant team.
Okay. So would you like to do it? Please introduce your team also.
Excellent, thank you. Chair Ariane, Chair Caliendo, committee members, good evening. Richard Lobel from Sheldon Lobel PC, joined by Fan Baton from my office. And we're pleased today to be here with Yaron and Ilan Rosenthal, the applicants for the 2117 37th Avenue rezoning. We are additionally joined by Manish Savani, the project architect, as well as Kevin Williams from GZA Environmental. I will present the land use portions of the application. Manish would briefly run through the project plans, and then Kevin, as well as the rest of us and Yaron and Ilan, would be happy to answer any questions from the committee. Next slide, please. So the project is largely the same as was presented in the pre-certification hearing in April. The applicant proposes a zoning map amendment, a rezoning from M11 to M15. This would consist primarily of the applicant's 2 lots, as well as an additional lot located on this frontage. There's 2 lots in the rear, which have a marginal piece which would not truly be affected by the rezoning. This map amendment would facilitate the development of 2117 37th Avenue, which is a roughly 17,000 square foot lot with a new 7-story mixed manufacturing and commercial building. And we'll discuss a little bit about the program of the building, as well as why we feel that this rezoning application has merit. So the mixed use development would be roughly 84,000 square feet with a total height of 113 feet, which at 7 stories allows for more generous floor to ceiling heights to provide for comfortable space for light manufacturing uses and product assembly intended at the site. The proposed base height is 82 feet before setting back from 37th Avenue by 15 feet and 20 feet from 22nd Street. So the proposed uses at the site are basically 21,000 square feet of commercial uses contemplated as ground floor local retail and commercial offices. And then the bulk of the building, 3.7 FAR of roughly 4.9, would be light manufacturing uses, including those related to Yaron and Ilan's business, which is Parts Authority. We are also proposing 58 parking spaces at the site, even though no accessory spaces are required under the M15. So if we can forward the slides, we'll look at some of the maps which demonstrate why we feel this is appropriate. You can see in the circled area the site, which is currently located in M11. We note that to the south of the site are over 20 blocks of M13, which allows for existing FARs of 5 and 6.5. So those floor area ratios are the same as the proposed M15 at the site. The important difference being between parking requirements, which are rather cumbersome for the M13. So this would allow us to establish the site here, allow for a significant amount of spaces to service the building, but also recognizes why this building, which is in the transit zone, is appropriately in M15 and appropriately, would not require the excessive parking required by an M13. The next slide is a tax lot map, which shows the site itself roughly 90 feet deep, including the site. You've got about 17,000 square feet of lot area, and then the gas station on the corner of 21st. The next slide is the land use map, which I think really well illustrates why this applicant and application are particularly appropriate. So there are a scattering of taller buildings within the area to the south that have availed themselves of the M13 bulk and height. But here you have a site which is on 37th Avenue, a wide street, which allows good access to the site. You are east of 21st Street, also an extra wide street at 100 feet. So the property itself is on a corner, has frontages on two streets, including a wide street on 37th. The Ravenswood houses are to the north of this site, which provide 4 taller buildings at roughly 6 stories. So what you have here is really addressing an issue that the city has itself recognized as a problem with M11 zoning. You've got a low FAR of an existing one and onerous parking requirements, which really don't allow for any type of productive development. So This would allow for a building which would have and house light manufacturing. Yaron and Ilan, if requested, can talk a little bit about their business, about the assembly and kits of parts for automotive repair that are done at the site. It allows for really significant job creation, allowing for walk-to-work opportunities for residential to the north. It's really a very well-conceived rezoning, and also one which kind of recognizes that this area really could use a building of this nature. It also allows for complementary ground floor commercial uses as an amenity both to building tenants as well as the local area. We included one slide, the next slide, which just shows kind of an eagle eye view of the area. You can see the site itself right now, as well as the residential buildings to the north, as mentioned, and some taller buildings you can see to the south at 13 stories. There are some 11 stories as well. So at 7 stories, the bulk here would be appropriate, and more importantly, would directly contribute to job creation. We feel would be a real asset to the area. The slides that follow primarily address the site itself and layout, and for that, I would ask Manish Savani to get on and kind of, briefly run through the intended design. Manish?
Yep, thanks, Richard. So I'll start with the facade. The building takes its inspiration from the industrial neighborhood context of the earlier 20th century daylight-filled factory buildings, which have very prominent frames and large infill windows. So that's what we have replicated here. The building will offer, I would say, ideal spaces with minimal columns, and that would allow the sunlight to penetrate through the floor plate, across the floor plate. Can I have the next slide? Yeah. Okay, so the loading and the unloading zone is located towards the northeast of the site, and the visitors parking area and the building entrances towards the south and the southwest, 37th Avenue. That's the general context of the parking and the curb cuts. Can I have the first floor, which is the third slide from now? Yeah, I'd like to jump, yeah. So the lobby, the visitors and the staff entrance is off the 37th Avenue, as I was saying earlier, into the light-filled lobby with the lounge space, and having commercial spaces on both sides, which allows for buzz all day, rather than a quiet lobby. Below the 2 levels below, the cellar and the sub-cellar have parking, which are the earlier slides, yeah, with 58 parking, self-parking spots, and utilities. Yeah, can we go to the upper floor then? Second floor? Yeah, so the second to the 5th floor are the larger floor plates, about 15,000 square feet each, which are all light manufacturing. And the floors above, which is the 6th and the 7th, above the base, are the offices for the Parts Authority. The building has several setback roofs on the 2nd floor and the 5th floor, which allows for a good outdoor-indoor space for the employees. And it's topped off with a solar roof on top. And yes, this elevation kind of falls back on the rendering, which was shown earlier about the factory influence on the facade. So that's my quick, short presentation on the building. And yeah, back to you, Richard.
Thank you, Manish. I think we would just add that we've been at this for a while in terms of an applicant team. And Yaron and Ilan are very excited about the prospect of locating here. Parts Authority has a long and storied history in the city, and the opportunity to really consolidate their operations here, as well as to allow for complementary businesses, would be something which, something which is really potentially exciting for them as applicants, and also potentially for the area. So with that, Yaron and Ilan can answer any questions, and the applicant team is happy to answer questions as well.
Can I give a little history how this whole thing developed? I opened our first location in 1973 on Hillside Avenue near the Clearview Expressway. In 1975, I opened our second store, which was a foreign-only store. In the past 50 years, we've grown. The whole company's grown, and we have 18 locations in New York City. We employ about 600 people. just in the city boundaries. We have a 200,000 square foot warehouse in the Bronx, which supports our locations and also additional locations that are, in Westchester, Long Island, and some in New Jersey. So what allowed us to grow all these years, if I can call it our secret sauce, is data. We currently carry 800,000 unique parts. We call them SKUs. And our data tells us what we should have, where we should have it, and what pricing we should have it at. If you kind of asked me, I would say we're more of a data company than an auto parts company. So what intrigued us about this and, kind of how we got here is we need to attract, young people that, have technical abilities. And we thought that this building, which we've owned since 2012, we were in a different location since 2007, further north, a smaller building, is that it's near subways, it's near a population in Astoria, Long Island City, and right across the bridge is the city. And there's a subway a few blocks down. So, that's the game plan, to put some offices in there. We also have a part of our business where we build kits, like transmission rebuilding kits and, front end kits. And we thought we'd use some of that space for now. And if the company keeps growing, we would convert that to offices. Our current office is in Lake Success, in New Hyde Park. And our lease is up in about 4 years. So, we'd love to get started on this project. Thank you all for your consideration.
And that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Jerry, do you have anything to say?
I think it's a couple of things. First of all, I think it's an appropriate use for that location, number one. And I think it's very important that we as a community board consider not losing major companies to other states, specifically New Jersey. It's very tempting for a lot of these businesses to get major tax advantages right across the river. And I've seen that in a number of cases in recent years. I do have some questions relative to the use of the building with respect to their operation and how it impacts traffic. It's a parts company. The question would be, how much of the building, what do you anticipate in terms of the in and out from people, from your own operation in terms of distribution, like panel trucks and so forth, distributing to your other locations? Obviously, you mentioned you have many other locations, so obviously this is not a primary location for distribution, but what do you anticipate for this location? And was there a traffic study done?
So, Jerry, we part of our business is internet fulfillment, where we pack kits and we ship them out FedEx. So we anticipate 1 or 2 pickups a day from FedEx for that particular part of the business. That will not be like a warehouse distributing to our locations. It'll purely be for our e-tail customers, as we call them.
And Jerry, this is Kevin Williams, environmental consultant, and I can answer some of what we analyze, just generally a worst case condition as warranted by DOT and Environmental Assessment Review Division factor. So when we started this project and we looked at the zone, because we're very familiar with this neighborhood. We know that parking is congested. So the first test was to make sure that the M15 was appropriate in terms of, and also to assist Manish and his team in terms of designing the appropriate number of parking spaces. So one aspect that we look at first is the journey to work characteristics for workers in this area. And it's 70% use public transit, and depending on the 3 or 4 census tracts that collectively surround or contain this site, it's 11% private auto use. Then we also looked at factors that DOT has related to the 3 components of the project: the local retail, which by nature is a more walk-oriented, as it notes, a local, source for, whether it's a bodega or a cafe, much more walk-oriented, oriented toward the building. And then the office and the manufacturing uses. And as Yaron noted, this is not meant to be a wholesale sort of manufacturing distribution center. There are separate bays for trucks, and our analysis identified, and I know Yaron indicated that maybe 2 or 3 parcel style trucks would go to the facility. We actually analyzed 3 in the AM peak period as a part of the traffic generation. So we're literally tripling, when we look at a worst case, tripling the amount of trucks that are likely to load. And the idea is you would assemble, and one parcel truck would take all of these to a distribution center. So there wouldn't be a lot of this distribution, back and forth like you would have in a normal sort of retail store. And then we also took the traffic generated, and we looked at it in 2 ways. One is in relation to census data and journey to work and reverse journey to work and how people get to and from work. And then also factors related to light manufacturing uses, warehousing uses, and office uses. And our assessment for both parking demand and traffic. So the traffic generation from the use, and it's not a super large building. So we're under 90,000 square feet, and 63,000 of it is sort of this office split with manufacturing. So it's not so large that it generates enough traffic to cross thresholds that DOT would warrant as being requiring a detailed traffic impact study. But I can tell you the number of trips here, and I have them in front of me, that we would be looking at. So during the AM period, we would so AM peak hour, there are a total of, and this is inbound and outbound vehicles, both those workers, and this is like sort of the maximum, right? AM drive time and deliveries, 55 total vehicles, trucks going into the entry on 22nd Street, and cars going into the 37th Avenue. And so I would note the 2 parking demand analyses that we did, one based on census, one based on DOT factors. Both remarkably came up with a peak accumulation of 57 cars. So the idea is that, whether it's office related trips or whatever, it's understood that, throughout the entire day, cars come and go to some degree. The demand was 57. We designed the facility to have 58 vehicles so that we're not spilling over into on streets and not exacerbating parking. But overall, based on the size of the light manufacturing, relatively modest truck trips, certainly as modest if you note what's there now. There's a warehouse that generates more traffic related to heavy vehicles or medium-sized trucks than what would gather here in terms of this mixed-use office, local retail, light manufacturing facility. So, and Jerry, I can follow up any questions that you might have after that. I don't want to keep on going on it.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Through the chair, Katie Ellman, please accept the promotion. Katie Ellman, please accept the promotion.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Katie. So Jerry, you're done. Okay, are there any other questions from the committee members? I do. Who had their hand up? Oh, Richard.
Yeah, first of all, I want to start off by saying that, you know, anything that contributes to job and job growth, I think is a big positive. So I'm going to start with that. And a lot of the questions I have were in regards to parkings, which a lot of them were answered. In particular, one of my things to watch out for is you're right across the street from the Uber facility, which, I mean, they've got cars parked on every which way, sideways on the sidewalks and this and that. So, you know, and that also may affect you guys a lot. You know, I mean, I'm sure that if they see a bare stretch of sidewalk in front of your building, they're going to try and grab it. So I don't know if you've made any contingency plans for that, but that's something you should keep in mind. The main question I have at this point is the site itself. What's the history of the site? And was anything done to, because that's an industrial neighborhood, in terms of contamination in the land before you start construction?
Rich, I can respond to that question. Mr. Kuzami, yes, so we did as a part of this project, we did a phase 1 environmental site assessment. And that did indicate, of course, is the nature of this area, that the site has to be remediated. So prior to development, there's an E designation placed on the site. It would have to go to Office of Environmental Remediation. And the likely remedy here would be a vapor barrier, but potentially a subsurface depressurization system. Soil removed from the site would have to have community air monitoring and would have to be taken to the proper disposal facility based on the waste characterization. So the site will be fully remediated up to what are pretty extensive standards with Office of Environmental Remediation.
Okay, good. So in a nutshell, there will be no retail. There's not going to be anybody coming off the street. This is basically for fulfillment of internet inventory orders and offices for you guys, and that's it, right? Pretty
Well,
much.
there's just some limited local retail on the ground floor.
So there will be.
Yeah,
Oh.
just basically to service the building and and, you know, allow for some stores for the area, but primarily office and light and this like light industrial.
If I could just chime in, what we were really thinking for the ground floor was a big, not big, but a food place that's big enough for all of the employees and the people who work to go there. And it would be good for local people and all of that, where they can walk there or pull in. And if you looked at the rendering, Parts Authority was going to take a little of the space just because it's their flagship to have a presence, but obviously they're not able to sell and store auto parts out of a small space. It's more of a marketing and branding type of thing.
All right. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Amy?
Hi, thank you. Mr. Rosenthal, you mentioned that you have about 600 employees now. Are they all located in your different locations? And is the idea to consolidate and bring everybody to the new facilities here? Or I'm just kind of curious in terms of timeline, whether you're hiring more people from locally or it's like relocating your 600 current employees.
So
And where are they coming from?
the 600 people are going to stay where they are now in our various locations scattered around the city.
Mhm.
And I believe 300 of them are in the Bronx in that building. We would relocate our offices that are in New Hyde Park. And right now we have about 25,000 feet there. We also have offices in New Jersey and, in some of our, we actually have a pretty big office out in Amityville. So the thought would be to bring in whoever we could into the building and to attract local talent, primarily for our, data tech, management. So we're not moving any of the 600 people. Those are, warehouse people and drivers and,
So part 2 of my question is that then the parking spaces are dedicated to your office staff that's hopefully coming into the new space, or is it for others to use?
I don't think we're at that point yet, but we're hoping to attract people in the area that can come by bicycle, that can take the subway, that are local.
I
That's
would
the whole
like to-
idea.
Yeah, I would like to chime in also because we didn't mention, Parts Authority, the intent is to bring some employees there and use the warehouse, use the office space that's upstairs. The lower floors that are the manufacturing. At this point, we probably only need a few of the floors, besides the office floors, the manufacturing floors for Parts Authority to use for these kits manufacturing and the things that we talked about. But we're going to look to attract some tenants that are startup tenants and tech type of tenants and creative type of places. I don't know if you all are aware, but this area is actually also an opportunity zone. And if someone starts an opportunity zone business in this neighborhood, they're able to get significant tax benefits later. So we believe that having a property like this in the area is a good thing, is that we could drive that also there. And I should have introduced myself earlier. I'm Yaron's son. I don't work at Parts Authority. I work as their real estate advisor and consultant because I've developed some properties, small, rehabs and stuff around the city. And I've been a real estate broker and manager for a long time. So I was able to help my father identify that this is a good place for them to go and to do and to consolidate some of their spaces that are further out and to move some offices here because it is a good transportation area. Obviously, they're not going to, Manhattan is not the place for this. So we have a lot of employees in Long Island. This is accessible for them. So to me, it was like a nice combination of move some employees here, have some new startup businesses come in, make the kits, improve the neighborhood with this, great building. And I think it would be a wonderful thing for the community and for the business. And I love if it's Parts Authority going back to Queens where it started.
That's wonderful history, and I applaud you guys for bringing new businesses into the area and wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Tyrone Gardner, did you accept the promotion? Tyrone Gardner.
I would just like to point out that we have about 250 locations nationwide. So our offices don't just support the New York locations. We started in New York. All the principals live in New York, and that's part of the plan.
Thank you. That's good to hear that you're keeping them here. Jeffrey?
Hi, thanks, Liz, and thanks for the presentation. First off, I want to say I have a couple comments, and then I'm going to ask a question. So I think the first thing, I noticed that 21st Street corridor, just kind of a mishmash of uses. So I think the upzoning here of light manufacturing and the height of the building and everything is appropriate for, it's contextual to the whole corridor. I'm happy to see, of course, the business growth in the neighborhood, and I applaud Parts Authority and welcome. Hopefully, we'll welcome you expansion into the neighborhood. I think the building is beautiful. I think it fits in with, again, the context of the 21st Street corridor. The question that I have is from the rendering. It looks like the commercial entrance is on kind of on 37th Avenue, but also 22nd Street. And I was wondering the decision to kind of face the building away from 21st Street. It looks like the parking garage entrance is at the corner of 21st and 37th. And I'm wondering why the commercial pieces of the building are not pushed onto 21st Street, which is a more commercial corridor than is 22nd Street, which is, as we know, there's a lot of kind of auto parts, similar auto parts, one-story auto parts and manufacturing around on 22nd Street. So I think that's my big question, is why the focus of commercial not on 21st Street and instead on 22nd Street. And I'd like to see kind of that parking. It doesn't kind of, to me, it doesn't make sense to have it on that corner. I think we can kind of, urban design philosophies, if we could enhance the 21st Street corridor with commercial instead of parking, garage. If we could see kind of that commercial area kind of focused towards 21st Street. So I think that's my question. Why was that layout chosen?
Jeff, I've had discussions with the gas station on the corner. He happens to be a parts customer, so we know him. And, I guess once I see this proceeding, I'll have discussions with him and try to acquire it, and add it on to the, yes, I would love to.
So where?
Yeah, Mr. Martin, that's actually the answer to the question. We don't front 21st Street.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an intervening property. Yeah, there, just
I
small.
see the rezoning doesn't stretch across the 21st Street.
It does, but the ownership.
But your lot does not.
Up to the red lot. Yeah.
I see. I missed the little light pink blip there. Yeah.
But I certainly, I think if they were able to acquire that would, the orientation of the building would be that direction, but yeah, it's.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
we
Mr. Rosenthal, I mean,
added
that would be.
the rezoning for, in case we could do this, the
In
guy
case you
was
could do it.
interested. And then, we just said we're gonna do it and add him in and we'll deal with him later.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think if Mr. Rosenthal, if you could, I think to me, when you're looking at that kind of urban design piece of it, I think it makes a lot of sense for you as a, and your business if that were a possibility. And I think for our community too, I think there'd be a lot of benefit to kind of have that building stretch across to 21st Street. So it fronts on 21st. I mean, just gonna make sense to me, but I, again, applaud kind of the building, and I think it's an appropriate upzoning here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Evie?
Thanks. Yeah, Jeffrey, I had a similar thing. I guess I missed that little strip too. Going back to the commercial, so Parts Authority would take up approximately how much of the commercial space, and what would be remaining for local retail?
We're really more anticipating kind of a showroom there.
Mm-hmm.
Our typical store is, between 20 and 30,000 feet. So there's no way in the world I could put a distribution center there.
I'll
For all
just
the reasons.
No, I know you're not putting a distribution center. But you did say that you were going to have some kind of space
Yeah.
down there, right?
Yeah, we do have about 5,700 square feet of commercial space, which is towards the left of the lobby, entrance lobby, which is available for retails, cafe, restaurant use.
So 5,700 is left for
That's
small
yeah.
retail, small local retail.
Mhm.
So it'd be multiple tenants in that space.
Could be, yes, it's large enough to hold. Currently it's shown as one big retail space.
Okay. And then you had also mentioned that you wanted to attract workers from the neighborhood. I'm just curious as to what your outreach is going to be to do that, since you're going to have a lot of people coming in by car, it seems, from New Hyde Park, since you are building these spaces. I'm just curious as to how, because the cars are clogging the streets. It's not just the parking, it's also just the cars coming to the area as well, which is a big problem in Long Island City and Astoria. So I'm just, interested to see how you're going to attract more people who can either walk or
Well, I'm
take public
interested also.
transportation.
I'm hopeful that we can build a nice enough place that people want to work at. Just to be frank, there's parking problems all over the city. So it's not unique to this area.
Right, but I think, and Rich and I can kind of respond to that. I mean, that's often in terms of whether it's residential and sourcing jobs, like first would be to reach out to the IBZ, and to try to coordinate with them to support local hiring, work with any recommendations of community board. And, Richard and I also often work with industrial job creation entities that, either are involved in agreements for M1s to M15s. So we would definitely, I think, look for your advice, but I think going to the IBZ first and using local resources in terms of job sourcing, but absolutely, I think the intent is not to migrate all of those jobs from all of these, Long Island, or outside of New York City locations, but it's to bring in locals that have, the computer and tech knowledge to supplement their needs. So I don't think it's all, far-flung, sources, coming from that are drive oriented. But one of the things to note is, there are a lot of people that do work in this area. And one of the things that come from outside of Astoria, and the census data for the past 20 years has hovered around 11 or 12% drive on auto. So people are using, transit that's about 1,400 feet away in terms of the, travel, and as well as the bus access that's quite good in this area. But I think we can obviously respond back with a little bit more tactically about how we're going to reach out and take advantage of local job creation, whether it's through the council member, borough president's office, the IBZ, governing bodies, and that sort of thing. We'll have a plan for that to meet that very good question, to make sure we're drawing locally.
Thanks. I would just add that Ravenswood houses are right up the street, and Queenswood
Right.
houses are in the other direction. And a little further up are Astoria houses as well. And those communities definitely, would want to, I think, be involved and participate, or at least have the opportunity and be outreach to. So
Excellent.
I was gonna have a similar suggestion, and also just wanted to remind you guys that, well, highlight that some of Parts Authority's employees in Long Island now actually live in Queens and are going to Long Island. So this would let them be more transit oriented. And like I said earlier, with the Opportunity Zone, we do plan on attracting local tenants who want to start there and have locals work there. That's the whole point, is that the tenant pool that we're trying to get for the tenants and the talent pool that we're trying to get for Parts Authority would be more of a Manhattan based or Queens based or Brooklyn based that could take public transportation to get there.
thank you.
We struggle getting from there to Long Island. So that's why we want to be in Long Island City.
Thanks. Liz, maybe you can clarify this for me. So basically, there's going to be a certain percentage commercial, certain percentage of light manufacturing, and that stays the same. That can't be flipped in any way or anything like that, right? If this gets rezoned, I just wanted to.
No, I believe, and our representative DCP, Colin Ryan, can help, can confirm this, that as long as it's a permitted use, it's the plan is just to use the square footage that, as of right, within that M15 zone. So whether or not they put retail, I'm just thinking, I don't think that they could, I don't think they're limited to X number of commercial and X number of manufacturing.
Yeah, and I can
Right.
supplement that. It is, the M15 permits commercial, manufacturing, industrial. I think that, part of the strength of the application is that we have an applicant here who has really identified their needs as a business. The opportunity and really the idea of building a new office building in this environment, I think it would be very challenging. There's a lot of office buildings which are failing right now, and Parts Authority being the user here and the opportunity for them to actually, be able to plan out the space is really what's been driving this project for now, close to 4 years. So, we understand, because we obviously deal with these applications, that there's, people look to the application and say, oh, are they going to really deliver on this? And I think here, it's just an understanding of who the applicant is and what their space needs are. And that's really what they intend to do.
When I first heard about this, my first concern was the ability to put in another hotel.
Sure.
Because it would have been permitted under the M1, but, under the M1, but, I understand it requires a special permit now for any new hotel, so it would come for a review. That was my only concern. I knew that the IBZ was gonna dictate the kinds of uses that would be in the building, and, it would be, it would correlate very well with the zoning and the area. As it's been said before, it's appropriate. So,
Yeah, and I think Liz, to add on to that too, it's like, I always, like to see, the owners of the buildings or the owner of the property come and kind of talk through their plan with us. I think it's important for that to happen. We don't always get that. So Mr. Rosenthal, I appreciate you kind of being here and talking us through that.
yes, the intention is important, at least we know the
Exactly.
intent is there. I had one thing to bring up, unless Evie, you have another question? Okay, your hand is still raised. That's why I asked. When you last came to us in April, the only issue that you did not talk about tonight, or at least I didn't hear, had to do with the building's resiliency plans. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Manish and Kevin to discuss a little bit about that.
I was like, I have not looked into it and I might need time on it. I'll have to come back on it. I'm sorry on that. Yeah.
Okay, so if you can refer to that at the public hearing on the 19th.
The one thing I can note on that, and New York City's been, working on, there's currently multiple text changes going on for carbon neutrality and that sort of thing. But the two most present ones, particularly related to concerns and flooding, of course, is, green roof systems and solar have to be a part of the roofing system on new structures. So that will allow for additional storage, slowing of water movement, and containing overflow. So, the use of the entire roof on this site could probably be hybridized to some solar and some green roof system, or whichever is more preferable. And of course, there's, along with these type of, that type of requirement, there are also incentives from NYSERDA, for deploying, and DEP for deploying both the green roof system and the solar. And then, of course, Energy Star and high efficiency, bathrooms and plumbing equipment is also supported through Energy Star grant. So, it's not only like the right thing to do, but it's the economically, sort of right thing to do as well. But those are some of the basic things. And of course, Manish can come back with some more textured if needed, but it will have a green roof system or a combined green roof system with solar at a minimum. They're required by local law.
I think Elon you're muted, Elon.
Yes, I'm muted, sorry. I'm excited that Kevin's talking about the green roof because we didn't even talk about that. And that was a plan that I had for the property. We already have solar in the drawing that we showed you. There's an awning that's solar. And when I do other building renovations and when I do projects, I always do it in a green way. They have the very energy efficient now hot water heater systems and boiler systems that are hydronic based and electrified, which is what the city wants to do now. Putting the green roofs, there's a way to do it. It's actually very economically and it acts as insulation also. And I think it adds a nice benefit for the Parks Authority people to go outside and go to the roof and not just be standing on a paver. So definitely in our plans would be making the building green, making the building energy efficient. As Kevin was saying, it's in our best interest. It makes economic sense. You get rebates for it. You save on fuel costs. You save on heating costs. So 100% what we want to build here for Parts Authority's headquarters is a Class A cool place. And that's when I was saying earlier about the retail corner. It's just branding and marketing to show Parts Authority is like this big auto parts company that has a green building right there and a techie vibe, is just the image and the brand and all of that. So
Okay, thank you. I thought I had seen Thomas Wright. Did you pull down your question? Okay, Andreas? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. There you go. Okay, first
Here I am.
Thomas.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you. First of all, let me commend you. I think that this is a very well thought out plan. This is actually my neighborhood as well. I'm one of the members here that's in Dutch Kills, right above where you're going to be. I think the thing that is most convincing from a green perspective, which I like that we always look into, is that in your characterization, this is more of a data company. It sounds like you have done a wonderful job of growing out of the parts fulfillment business and growing into a data company. And I do think it would provide wonderful jobs and fit into the neighborhood. I would be interested, as I always am, about the specificity of the environmental impact that you'll be having. But I believe you've answered all of those questions. I think it'd be an excellent benefit, excellent building in the neighborhood, and really more of a comment than a question. So thank you.
Thank you. Andreas?
Yes, sorry if I missed this, but I was just wondering if you had estimates on how much, like roughly what percent of the building is going to be fully, or, is going to be powered by solar and renewables?
it's very hard to tell that without, because I've done this with other ones, without the full energy audit. We're going to put as much solar panels as possible. If you look on the rendering, it's like it covers most of the roof. And like I was saying, with all of the other stuff that you use and mechanicals that go into a building and the way you engineer it, we're definitely going to get the most bang for our solar buck as possible. I will leave it at that, but it's hard to put a percent on it,
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, I saw a hand before. Did I miss? No? Okay. I guess that's it. So, all right, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation of a good project. At least that's, in my opinion, and several others here. So, the meeting is on, the public hearing is on the 19th. And if you just enhance your presentation just a little bit about the resiliency measures, that would be great, because you've answered all of the issues that we brought up. And we can report it that way. So thank you again.
Thank you. We all appreciate everyone here and the time you put in for this, and we're excited to move forward as partners with the community board. Yes,
and good luck to you.
Thank you.
In your business. I mean, you've had good luck anyway, many years. So thank you. All right, the second item on the agenda is, where am I? Okay.
Thank you all.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. The second city planning item on the agenda is 3742 30th Street, a chair certification and an authorization that will permit a fresh supermarket and additional floor area in at this location. So we have Eric Palatnik, and can you introduce yourself and the team you've brought with you, please?
Sure. You have myself and you. Good evening, everybody. You've seen us before on this project. Also, Alonzo is on the line with us. He's controlling the screen. And Jack Farron here. I don't know if you've been made eligible to join the call or not to speak at all, but Jack is here. And if you could let him speak, that would be
37.
Excuse me.
I'll promote him now. Bear with me one moment, please. Participants. It's good when they put their name to put their affiliation. Jack, can you please accept the promotion? Okay, you're good.
Okay,
right.
can you just, I'm sorry, Eric, can you, someone just clarify who Dan Miller is, who is on our, is he belong
He's-
to one of the firms?
He's not with our team.
Okay,
I don't believe he is. I've never met Dan.
I'm with Eric Palatnik. I'm the one controlling the screen, just to let you know.
yes, Alonso, I know, you've been here before. I
Yeah.
was just wondering if Dan Miller was another person presenting something.
He
Okay,
just says he's a member of the public. He just put it in the chat.
oh, okay, thank you.
All right.
Continue.
Hello, Dan. All right. Good evening. Thank you all for spending one of the last days of summer on a Zoom call with us. I'm here tonight to seek your support and your nod of consent for a chairperson certification and a zoning authorization to allow for the creation of a fresh food store of 12,000 square feet at the ground floor and partial second floor of the proposed 8-story building, and to place that floor area bonus that comes from having a fresh at this location on the upper floors of the building. And to refresh, saying the word fresh a lot, everybody's memory, we had presented this exact application to you almost a year ago on November 2nd of 2022. At that point, we thought we were pretty close to getting to the end of the review process, but it took a little bit longer than we had all hoped for. So now we are once again coming to the end of the review process, although this time the application has been certified by the Department of City Planning and the City Planning Commission, and they will be reviewing the application within the next few weeks, and they've asked for the application to be sent out to the community board to be heard once again. So it is not a formal ULURP application. You are not required to do anything here. This is not like the rezoning that you just heard. And I'd be happy to answer any more questions anybody may have when I'm done. I'll try and make it quick because you've heard it all already before. And I'll continue on. As I said, it's an application to permit a proposed 8-story building. Alonzo, if you could just click ahead. This is where the site is located. You all know it in much better detail than I do. It's right in the heart of Dutch Kills. And Alonzo, why don't you click ahead a couple of slides and go to the slide that's got the aerial that shows the other uses around us. We'll go one more slide forward. Okay, so you can see here, this information is rather old. The dirt lot that's behind us has a 7-story building that's been constructed on it. This material was all constructed, created at this start of the application process. But you can see here, it's exactly what you would think Dutch Kills looks like from the air. If you can go next slide, please. This slide shows you what we are proposing to do as far as our height in relation to the heights of other buildings in the area. Remember, we are asking to have the fresh floor area go up to the upper floors, and that is what the application request is for. So I'm showing you here the height of the building at 85 feet, and I'll show you some pictures in a moment of the building behind us that's been constructed. If you can click ahead, Alonzo, please, we can take everybody ahead a couple to the pictures, Alonzo. I think everybody gets an idea. This is the site itself. Of course, again, there is no snow on this ground right now today as it's 85 degrees. But you can see the building behind us has been constructed and the site is in the foreground, and that's in view 8. And it's also depicted in view 7. The site, you can see, has a construction fence around it. They started putting in some footings to commence construction, but they've stopped and they've started as we've trudged through this process. And they've just recently started doing a little more work in an as-of-right fashion on the proposal. Alonzo, why don't you click, for the sake of time, all the way ahead and get out of the photographs if we can. And why don't we go to the slide that has the fresh supermarket operator right there. You read my mind. So we're here today, and I kind of jumped ahead for those who aren't familiar with what a fresh is. A fresh application allows a supermarket to be occupied in a building, which they're allowed to be within no matter what, but it enables them to get a zoning bonus of floor area for that square footage that they're creating a supermarket. And the idea of it is that the city is encouraging supermarkets to be in locations where they may not otherwise locate. It's an incentive program to create an opportunity. This is the operator that we're proposing to have in there. He's been in business for many years. His name of business is Wonderful Marketplace. This is his corporate name. You can see he's got a location in Flushing. He's got one in Elmhurst, and he's got two in Elmhurst, actually. And we'll go through this in a little more detail with you as who he is. We'll show you his letter of intent in a few moments. If you can go to the next slide, please. You can see here what the type of food products they create. It's a supermarket that caters to all different ethnicities, whether it be Italian, whether it be Greek, whether it be Chinese, whether it be Korean. The idea that this supermarket operates off of is sort of like the whole food of ethnic food. So obviously there's a lot of different people in the community that originate and come from and grew up and have family in all these different areas around the world. And this supermarket has made a very good niche in achieving that. You can see that in the second bullet point. China, Korea, Japan, India, East, South Asia. And the second floor of the building will really cater to that specific diversity. The first floor will contain much more common food items. If you go to the next slide, please. This we just give you some pictures of some other supermarkets around the city that are 2 stories, because there is a second floor within the building, and that will have the supermarket. We wanted to show you that there are other supermarkets that have this. If you can go to the next slide, please. This, we wanted to show you the idea behind this supermarket. We've created a survey, and so is the owner, and so has the supermarket themselves, of how many supermarkets there are in the area. And although it may seem like there are a lot, there really aren't that many, especially when you consider how many people live in the area. And if you look at the supermarkets that there are there, 3 of them are supermarkets that we all know by name, or at least I do, which is Key Food, Seatown, and Trade Fair supermarket. And those are basically, I'd call them the continental cuisine of supermarkets, if they were going to be a restaurant. The supermarket that's opening here, again, like we're trying to explain, is one that's going to contain a lot of continental items. It's also going to contain some specialty items that you won't be able to find anywhere else, which will appeal to a large percentage of the population. Next slide, please. So we have the plans put together here for you, and I'll show them to you. This is the building. You can pause right here. It's a great slide for you to see. This is looking at the building as if you're on 38th Avenue, and 30th Street is to your right. You could see that there's a roll down gate. That will be a loading berth. You can see that the building will be 8 stories tall. There'll be some setbacks. That's what the blue and the white and the grays are all distinguishing. So it's not just going to be a total of 8 stories. It'll be 7 stories. It'll be a partial 8th story, and that's how it's designed there. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a little bit hard to read because it's created by an architect for more of a design standards. But what we're showing you here is the first floor of the building, and I have some more color images to show you. But the important thing here that I want to call out is in the top right on 30th Street is where there'll be a residential and a commercial parking garage entrance. There'll be parking for 45 cars, 32 for the residential apartments, and 13 for the supermarket. And on the lower left, you'll see a curb cut where you see an arrow coming out, and that curb cut is for the loading berth. And I'll show you that in more detail in a moment. If you go to the next slide, please. Click through here. If we can get to some of the color slides. They're a little better. There you go. Okay. So the top slide here is the slide I just showed you a moment ago, but just with more detail. The top slide is the first floor. Everything in yellow and green all shows all the fresh areas. The fresh is required to have a certain percentage of area that's utilized for fresh foods, and that's what is being depicted in the yellow. Then there's a certain area that's required to have common food products that might not be fresh foods, such as nuts, pastas, things that are dry goods. I don't shop that much. I'm not as much of a cook, but that's where you would find those items. That's depicted in the green. And you can see the same thing as you go upstairs. Excuse me, that's in reverse. The green is the fresh, and the yellow is the dry goods. Because as you go upstairs, you see more dry goods, and that's depicted on the bottom of the screen. You see the second floor. Everything in gray are the residential apartments, and everything in yellow is the supermarket space. And if you can click through to the next slide, we can go to just go right to maybe one elevation, a slide, a few slides forward, up, go back, one slide, one more, pink. There you go. The pink area that we're showing here is the floor area that's being generated from the fresh application. Remember, we're here asking you for permission or authorization to get a bonus for the fresh space. So the 12,000 square feet of supermarkets on the ground and first floor, it's entitled to ask for a bonus for the exact same amount. So we're asking for that bonus and we're placing it upstairs. And that's what you're looking at in pink here. This pink areas would not be achievable if it was not derived from the supermarket that's proposed to be downstairs. And the application is asking for a slight height increase of 10 feet. We're allowed to be at 75 feet in height in this district. We're asking to go to 85 feet to accommodate that space. And that's what the authorization is for. So there's two actions. There's a request for a chairperson certification to utilize the pink space. And there's a request for an authorization to have the height to accommodate it. And those are the actions. And I'll go through now a couple of points that were raised at your left here. Go one more slide, actually, 2 more slides forward. I'll show you the height itself. One more slide forward, please. Right here is a section, and you can see it at the top of the page, the area that's shaded in gray and has the blue and the red surrounding it. That's the area of the height increase. So that's the area that I showed you a moment ago that we're asking for the floor area to accommodate. I'm trying to show you where we're placing it as if you were looking at the building from the outside. I think that's enough of my presentation. I will be happy right now to just go through a few more points with you to refresh your memories. We sent you a 4-page letter after we met in November of 2022. Alonzo, you can take the screen down for now and we could bring it back up if everybody wants it. At that meeting, you asked us for a series of questions similar to the questions you just asked a moment ago. So I'll just refresh everybody's memory and because it's not, I don't know if it's in the record, and unfortunately it's not in the presentation. So we sent you a letter, and one of the questions you asked is about affordability within the building. So the building will have 64 apartments. The building qualifies for a 421A tax abatement. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with the fact that it no longer exists, but this had its foundations in beforehand. That's why we're anxious to get this thing approved, because we time out soon on that. But nonetheless, 64 of the units, there will be 64 of the units, and 20 of them will be income restricted. So that was one of the requests of your board last time, was to ask us how many affordable units there'll be, and that is the answer. It will range anywhere between 30 to 130% of the area median income in accordance with the last iteration of the state's 421A tax abatement program. You also asked us about sustainability measures, and we explained in our letter a bunch of different bullet points. There'll be a centralized domestic hot water heating system with a recirculation system, high R insulation exceeding the 2020 codes where practicable. There'll be a low U fenestration exceeding the 2020 codes. There'll be high efficiency air source heat pumps. There'll be construction with recycled building materials. There'll be a green roof and flat surfaces shall capture the rain. And there will be that portion that is not capturing it in the green roof. There'll be a blue roof system that will be proposed under all non-green roof areas. So the water will be captured in that way. We gave you back a detailed parking plan, and we explained to you that there will be a valet. The valet will be available at 30th Street. So when people come in, they will take the car, and there will be 32 spaces for residents and 13 for the fresh. We know we're not going to be able to fit everybody that's in there for the fresh, but it's hard to find a supermarket in New York City that can find parking for every single person that's coming in and shopping. And another question your board had, what happens if the building shuts down, if the supermarket shuts down? If the building is constructed and the fresh does not increase it, does not occupy it, the certificate of occupancy could be revoked by the Department of Buildings. That has yet to happen, and that was one of your questions, because the building's getting a bonus as a result of this request. And the question is logical: what happens if it goes out of business? We're not planning on shutting down anytime soon, but it's a larger problem within the city's fresh program. The building is built. Once it's built, it's built. So but the certificate of occupancy could be revoked, as could the approval. And that could lead to a bunch of headaches for a building owner, leading to that area to be sectioned off. So that is hopefully a very complete presentation that hopefully refreshed everybody's memories. And we thank you very much for giving us the time.
Answered all my questions.
Thank you, Eric. Is Jerry still, no, Jerry, do you have any questions on this? As far as I can see, he answered the questions from the last meeting we had.
No, I have no question.
Okay. Amy?
Hi, I'm really excited about Fresh coming to my neighborhood. This is really something I'm looking forward to. I do have a question about your circulation on the plans. If you can bring back the floor plate for like the second floor.
Yeah. Alonzo, excuse me. Can you pull up the second floor?
So I just want to understand, the supermarket will not go into the basement, or is there a basement for like, storage?
It's for storage and parking, primarily parking.
And so there's an elevator that's going to serve both the resident and shoppers going from the basement to the second floor and
No.
upper floors?
No, you can see in the area in blue is an elevator, is a staircase right there that'll be servicing. And there is an elevator that will be located. It should be right there. Jack, is the elevator right there next to it? In blue?
The elevator, we have an elevator just for exclusive for the supermarket from first floor to second floor, the blue, and the residential is separate. The two elevator service for the residential from the cellar up to the roof. So they are completely isolated, because they are not allowed to commercial and mix with the residential.
Well, that's why I wanted to double check. I'd be remiss not to mention that we have a lot of elderly residents, and I myself is getting to that point, and I want to make sure that I can get to the second floor safely.
Yes,
It's
this
segregated,
is a zoning requirement. Yeah, we have an elevator from first floor to second floor.
Thank you.
One thing that I didn't hear in your presentation, Eric, one of the issues we had was about the paying for parking for the supermarket customers. Do you have information on that as yet?
Yes, there'll be no charge for supermarket customers that are coming in to shop at the facility. It'll be first come, first serve, and they just have to simply display their receipt to the valet, and they will be not charged for their time there.
Okay.
It's not meant to be a for pay parking system at all. There'll be no cash. It's not meant to have any cash exchanged or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Evie?
I have a question about the affordable units or income restricted, whatever you want to call them. You said that there'll be 20, ranging from 30% to 130% AMI. What's the breakdown? And are those permanent, or do they expire?
Affordable. I don't have the breakdown for you, Juliet. I'll be right there. My daughter just knocked on the door. They're not. They're under the 421 program. They're permanently affordable, so they're not coming out of the affordability matrix. They're essentially a rent stabilized apartment when they go through it. And I don't have information as to the breakdown specifically, but I'm sure Jack's 421A attorney does, and I could get that to you. I can get you a schedule of what that would be if you would like it.
Yeah, I think we asked for it last time too.
Can I jump in? Yeah, for the 421A, the program is different because we only can apply after we get the TCO, and then we're gonna work out with our consultant on the 421A, and then we're gonna figure out what's the percentage on AMI or this bracket. So we don't have a decision yet because since we are not there yet. But 30% is a requirement by the 421A program.
Right. I'm talking about the AMI that's going to be used.
It could be the AMI could be from 30. I believe from 60 up to 130 right? And
You said 30 to 130 before, so.
yeah, I think 30 for 130. Yeah, so we haven't make a decision yet because we are not there yet because we only can apply after we get the TCO, and then we're gonna work out with the 421A consultant.
So you could do all of those apartments at 130% AMI.
No, there's an average that they have to come to within that range. I don't want to misspeak and say what the average is, but it's somewhere in the middle of what I just stated of the 30 to 130.
I'm gonna defer to let's see. Colin Ryan or Derek Jasmine, can you talk about the fresh and the 421 together? You know, the units.
So fresh and 421A are separate. So we have, the density bonus is not equate to affordable units through fresh, but 421A is a separate tax abatement program that is administered by the state. Just wondering how you want this whole answering this question, because I think the 421A AMIs will be an average, so it's to be determined, I'm sure, but like it is based on that range and creating an average with it.
Okay, thank you. So, Evie, if you want to think about, you know, what can go into the letter to DCP or city planning about this on,
I mean, they're getting a bonus, right, for putting in the supermarket, right? Supermarkets are good. They're also not going to be paying taxes for a few decades through 421A. And it just looks like I'm concerned about the affordability levels of those affordable apartments, because that's what we're lacking in this community. So I think it's very problematic.
okay. Thomas, right?
I live in the Baker House, which is right near where that would be. If you're familiar with it, the first floor was the Baker House Market for a few years. But the Baker House Market was run by someone who didn't have a very long lease term. Then at their lease term, they moved out and there's now 2 restaurants below me, despite the fact that the market was very, very convenient. So I applaud the presenter acknowledging the fact that this fresh benefit comes really with no strings. They can have a short-term lease of a market and still receive the benefit. I would like to know, how long is the lease and what security do we have that there will be a market serving the community for an extended period of time?
I can understand that, and thank you very much for saying that. I'll let Jack what the lease term is. He's the one that's created the business deal. I'll say this before, I'll preface it with this. I have never seen somebody more excited to create a business in their building than Jack is for this. So there's no intention and no desire. He's really worked hard to curate this, and this is here not just for the floor area. He likes the business owner and he likes their. Jack, how long do you have the terms for with Wonderful Market?
Yeah, we have 25 years for both and 10-year, and then 5-year extension, and then another 5-year extension. So top option. So like total 35 years. And plus, once we have a fresh, we're gonna have a 5 restricted.
Yeah, so the other thing too is we're signing a restrictive declaration. Jack, what Jack is saying is as a part of the application process, city planning requires the filing of a restrictive declaration to go alongside it. So I'm not suggesting that, the flow on the program, once it's built, but there are legal built in so that there could be some kind of action taken if Jack becomes if he should become a bad actor, if there is a bad actor out there, there is something could be done to act on it.
I certainly appreciate that. I don't mean to accuse anyone of being a bad actor. I just am very familiar with this area, and I know that those applications and lawsuits through the Department of Buildings to have them enforce this are, I've never seen one successful. But thank you. That's a lovely lease term, 25 years.
Yeah, and he's really, Jack, I can't say enough. He's very anxious for this use. I mean, he's been very, very, very excited about it. You can hear, I'm sure, when he's talking.
To confirm what Eric is saying, there is a third, it's a non-ULURP number, let's call it that has to do with the fact that there are legal documents being prepared related to this, the bonus that's going in. So, whether or not, I'm not sure, but whether or not the 12,000 square feet is only dedicated to the 421, the affordable units, I'm not sure about.
Clarify that. The 421 is unrelated to the fresh. The 421 will be spread amongst the entire building and unrelated. If the fresh is not granted, he's still applying for the
So
420.
is it 30% of the residential floor area includes the 12,000 additional, or?
Includes the 12,000 additional. So there's 44,000 square feet.
Okay.
30% of that floor area is what's going to be captured in the
So
420.
if you didn't have the 12,000, you would be that much less
Whatever the calculation is.
number of units in the building that are designated as affordable,
Correct.
no matter what the affordability is. So they're getting a few more affordable.
Get a few more of everything, a few more market rate, a few more affordable, and a few more square feet of supermarket.
Because it's across all the AMIs.
Correct.
Okay. I guess after several years, you finally start developing a second sense of what you get out of all of these actions that we're going through.
I'll say this just for your own board's edification. I'm sure there's been people in there who have told you this. You'll see a dramatic drop in any kind of residential kind of applications coming into your board. The 421 stymied it. There were 0 new building permits pulled in Manhattan last month or the month before. There were more pulled in Keene, New Hampshire than there were in Manhattan. And it's solely because the 421 is the only way to make it affordable, especially now that inflation is and interest rates are through the roof. So it's the 421 was a good program for that. Hopefully it'll come back. But it is, I just wanted to give you some knowledge about that, because if you're noticing, you'll probably start seeing less and less new buildings going up in the next few years as everybody waits to see what happens.
I'm not so sure about that in this district, at least, because most of our zoning is pre-61 or
Yes.
1961. So there is a great deal of pressure to upzone some of the areas, especially in Long Island City and Western part of the district. So it's, we're getting mixed use developments. We're not getting strictly residential development. And that's the new.
Which is a great project, right? That's nice to see that. So
Okay. So, all right, who else is there? Anyone? Thomas, you spoke. Is there any other question on this application? Now, Eric, you did mention I'm glad that you talked about, I was going to talk about the fact that this was a non-ULURP. The board is not required to hold a public hearing, but we do it anyway, because nevertheless, we like our opinions known to city planning and hope that they get through. So it will be going to public hearing on the 19th.
Okay.
And, let's see. And these were referrals, so they're not formal ULURP applications, but it basically has to conform to the same, the same protocol that we have for looking at projects and reviewing them. So I don't have any other issues. Jerry, you don't have any other issues about that either?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, we'll take this up in our business section. Thank you very much for the presentation.
thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Okay. I just want to let the committee know that Councilmember Wan's representative, Isaac Blassenstein, is here tonight. Let's see. Okay, the third item is the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity. I believe Colin Ryan is going to give us an overview of what to expect coming down the line next month, this month, maybe next month. We'll be talking about it at our meeting in November. So Colin, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. I'll take the floor. So this will be a similar process to what you experienced for zoning for carbon neutrality, since this is the second in our phase of City of Yes policies. The third one will be city or zoning for housing opportunity. We expect that zoning for economic opportunities public referral will come out at the end of October. That is what we're currently on track for. That could change, but for now is what we're planning for. We're also expecting a draft text to come out very soon, within the next week or so. So I'll be sharing that with you all as soon as possible, just to give you some time to review. And also would like to use the space just to offer you guys some, just anticipating that I'll be able to share some presentations on that in the public referral phase, which will be 60 days. So there'll be 2 land use committee meetings and 2 general meetings in which we'll be able to discuss this. So I'll let you deliberate on when you'd like to have that, given that the text and the public referral period will be at the end of October, and seeing that the first land use committee meeting is on the 1st of November, I believe. You might want just some more time to think about it, but obviously would let you all decide on how you'd like to move forward with that.
Were you going to be able to provide us with a draft copy of the text before that meeting?
Yeah, that draft text will be coming. It's from what I've heard today, it was going to be in the next week or so. So I'm anticipating that I'll be able to share that shortly.
Okay. Any hints about what we can be looking at?
I don't have any materials I can really share at the moment. Nothing's been prepared yet. Our zoning team's really working diligently. We have 3 really big initiatives pushing forward on top of our regular work streams. So yeah, when I'm aware, you'll be aware.
Do you have any idea how extensive the changes are going to be? You know, how many sections of the resolution we're going to have to read about?
I think it was outlined in the public information session that we had, but I don't have an extensive list of like how many alterations there'll be.
Okay. So basically it's affecting all commercial overlays and zones.
Yes, so it'll be affecting commercial, it will definitely be affecting all commercial zones in the just relating to use group specifically, but then there'll be more specific targeted use language around specific zones.
Okay. All right, well, I think you know that as soon as the information is available, it would be much better, because we are going to do that in November. Of course, I think perhaps maybe they can hold it open if we can't turn it around as quickly, similar to what they did for the other City of Yes, where they waited until the commission held its public hearing in order to receive our comments. So, okay, we'll do our best if you do your best. Okay.
Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about the 37th Avenue rezoning, the Rosenthal development. We have another issue that we need to talk about, and that has to do with how we're going to handle this. We don't have a protocol now that we're supposed to be meeting in person for voting. It's from what I've been reading, there's some conflicts. I'm very confused because there's so much different information out, but in order to, there has to be a quorum of people meeting in person, and then you can also have, people looking and joining the meeting and participating. I'm talking about our committees from remotely. And
Liz,
What?
please don't go into what you read because we are working under the guise of the Borough President's Law Department. Everything that we do, I clear. So if you read an article and the article says something like that, it's inaccurate because there are a lot of rules and regulations behind. If a person is sick, they have to provide a doctor's note. We have to prove that they're sick, and they cannot be counted for attendance if we go in that direction.
And I understand. I
understand.
Okay.
I don't
But
want,
I'm
don't
try-
forget, Liz, please.
No,
Don't forget, we're
no,
on YouTube.
Florence, as chair, I'm trying to keep us on topic, and I'm asking the committee members what they think we can do in terms of establishing a protocol. We have always had, our protocol has always been.
Liz,
to
may I
vote
please
on-
finish? I'm
Excuse
protecting
me,
you and all the
no,
board members.
Florence. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my point across, and I'm trying to solicit the comments from the committee members.
And I welcome that, but I'm trying to protect you as the chair of the board and as a New York City board member. And I'm trying to protect the board so nobody gets in any kind of trouble.
We're not getting in trouble. Just, can you just let
No,
Liz
nobody-
finish?
Elizabeth and I are having a conversation. Evie,
No. We're not having a conversation.
Guys,
Flor.
you're out of order. Please stop.
Thank you.
Liz, we're going to run into a problem. And if this continues, then what's going to happen is we're not going to be able to do these kinds of meetings.
The question I have is whether or not we want to do in-person meetings to avoid all of these issues, or if we're going to establish a protocol that will allow us to vote legally, or we're not going to vote anymore. We're just going to give a report and just say, well, there was a general feeling at the committee. These are the issues that we discussed, and this is the answer that we got. How do we feel about it? So, I mean, here, these are real, we have to think about this, what we're going to do. And so I'm going to open it up for discussion at this point.
Through the chair, I called you, I spoke with the chair of the community board. I explained to you, there is no way doing Zoom meetings, there can never be any kind of a vote. This is the information presentation and the session. I highly respect you. I highly respect your authority. I have spoken to you offline. I have spoken with the chair. There is no way ever can there be a vote. You can come to some kind of consensus, but being very careful about the dialogue that you use. You can have every single discussion and do a breakout session at the full board meeting. And you and your team can discuss whatever you want, but there is no way there can ever be a vote on Zoom, ever.
Florence, is that in writing any place?
It's from the lawyers at the Borough President's Office.
No, but is that in
Open-
writing? Is that in
I
writing?
can get it in writing if it's necessary.
Once we have it in writing.
I've done it in the past.
Once we have it in writing, then the discussion is moot. Because then we have to make a breakout session at the board as we've done in years. We can do,
Precisely.
what Liz just mentioned, we can do an informal, so she can write a report. I think that's what she's getting at, to try and.
That's what
get
we said
a
last week.
consensus.
Please let Jerry speak.
I think we're trying to get a consensus if we can't officially have a vote. So that's it. It's as simple as that. So we can move this meeting.
There is a
to
problem, Jerry.
conclusion.
Jerry, there is a problem. I am not a glorified secretary. I'm the district manager. I speak with the lawyers. I'm the one who gathers information for all of you to make sure that your job is easier. And whenever I try to address this body, I'm embarrassed and humbled because you don't want to hear what I have to tell you. I am the one who brings you the information, and you can do whatever you want with it. But I want to make sure that each and every one of you doesn't go against the open meetings law.
Agreed.
I have had board members on this board who have gone to jail for doing things that are illegal.
Okay,
Please let me finish
we're
my sentence.
digressing. We're digressing, okay? So
Why
Jerry,
don't we just get the information in writing, but there's nothing against taken an informal vote not to be carried to the board.
We're not allowed to vote, Jerry. That's the law.
Not a vote,
Don't use the word vote.
It's not a vote.
not a vote.
That's what I'm
Please.
saying. It wasn't a vote last time. They were given a report about what the issues were that were raised at our last meeting and the general consensus of the members who were there. And my question to the committee, is this the protocol that we're going to adopt? Or are we going to meet in person so that we can vote the way we used to vote?
Could I?
Can I, please, I'm,
Hold on.
my hand was up first, so I took it down, but yeah.
I see. Yes, your hand was up first,
Yeah,
Richard.
okay, two things I want to say. I suggest that we have we invite the Director of Community Boards from the Borough President's Office to discuss this subject, number one. And number two, I think that there's no problem with us having breakouts to go do this. We've done this for 20 years. We meet at 6 o'clock or something early before the meeting and have whatever kind of vote we have to have. We've done that forever, and there's never been a problem with it. At that point, then we can bring the results of the vote at that point. The only thing we'd have to consider is, are we going to allow a vote with only the people that attended the information meeting, or is it going to be for anybody that's on that committee? That's the only question I have in my head, but it's a
Can't
simple
vote on
answer.
it, Richard.
It's simple. Huh?
We can't we can't vote on what you just said.
I know that, but anyway, it's really simple. We've done it forever.
We can't decide on that,
Why
Jim.
don't we vote on it at a breakout session at the community board?
Okay,
meeting? How about
let's
that?
get
All
the
right?
comments. I'll put it in, I'll make a summary when we have it. Okay, Thomas, I think. Tom, right?
Thank you, Liz. I'll, would address and answer your question. When I applied to the community board, it was explained to me that I had to personally be present at each meeting. And in that I applied to be on this committee. I'm very happy to make myself available to you and to other board members to meet wherever you would like to meet so that we can consider and vote. However, I would like to ask that in the future, any type of which rules are we using to recognize people who speak at the meeting? Is there a group of rules in which someone is identified?
Yes, you have when you raise your hand, I pick whoever is the first one I saw and I go down the line there.
Okay, very good. Simply
Okay.
because I do believe I've worked in the same position. And if we are making requests of Florence to get things from her, I think we have to be able to have a time when we can recognize her and she can give us those written documents or review them with us. I think she has.
Well, that's the
information.
point. We haven't gotten anything written. We've just been told we can't vote. We have to do it's very difficult. But you need to have a set of rules by which we work. We have always done it in a certain way since 2015. I've been doing it this way. And so when you have this confusion, and even when you look at what was written by the Borough President's Office, you can meet not in person, but you have to have something that's, some kind of protocol that's written either by the board or, special guidelines. But you have to have most of the people, they still say at the very end, you must have a quorum in one location. So not in disparate homes, et cetera, not virtual. So, there are different rules for you to be able to conduct a meeting and participate and vote, but you have to have the majority of the group in one place together. And then others can join. That's what they're saying now.
I was faced with this by the chief judge. If there's ever a question that we need clarification on, I'm very happy to draft a letter to have that office make clarification, because I completely agree that during the time of COVID, there were so many rules released, there were so many changes, and there were so many letters I cannot explain to you how frustrating it was for us working in the courts, but I'm very happy to draft a letter and go down and get an answer for us if I ever need to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next one I saw was Evie.
Yeah, I was just going to emphasize the fact that we should figure something out, because I think it is important for us to vote on particularly, larger controversial types of projects. And so my understanding from being on a PTA, you can have a hybrid meeting, but the quorum, I know you're shaking your head, Florence, but just let me finish. There has to be quorum in person in order for the meeting to go. Now, people who are virtual get to vote when it's time to vote? I think that's what I'm not clear on. Whether is it only the people
as long as there is a group of people, a quorum in place in one location together, everybody gets to vote. But those people who are not there, there are rules also about whether their absence from the in-person meeting is legitimate or is excusable, et cetera. These are all things that we've never really talked about. And we're not getting the direction either from, some of the, the borough president's office. Yes, there is a memo. I happen to have a copy of it, but it's not given to the members of the board to, let them know what it is that's allowed. And it's very confusing. It's very confusing too.
How did you get that memo, Liz? Because I don't even have it.
So what else did you want to finish your comment?
No, I was just saying, if there is a memo, I would love to see it.
Yeah, technically we should get it, we should know.
Liz, I would share it if you would get it to me. I'll get it from the lawyer and I'll find out and I'll give it to you all.
Okay,
This is why I said that we should have the director of community boards come and speak.
That's not their job. The problem is you guys don't want to let me do my job. My job is
I'm sorry, Florence, that is unacceptable.
It is not unacceptable.
Correct.
It's accurate. It's
not correct.
Pardon me, please let me finish my sentence. I went to the borough president. I spoke with Marie. Marie gave me permission, Liz, to go ahead and do the meetings like this. I called you, I gave you the information. You chose to bring this up today at the committee meeting to make a debate about it. I gave you 100% accurate information. I called the lawyer right now. He is going to email the rule. I am going to give it to you. But the thing is, to say this one's going to write a letter, that one's going to write a, that's not your job. That's my job. I'm the one who writes the letter to the borough president's office. I'm the one who
the issues right now.
I am not. I'm bringing up the
letter.
It's offensive to me.
And I want to move on, Florence. I really
Thomas offered to write a letter.
Applications that we need to move.
Why can't I ever finish a sentence without being interrupted and put down? I don't understand. I'm your partner. I'm not trying to harm you guys. I'm trying to make sure that all the rules for open meetings law are followed. I even went as far as to the mayor's office to make sure. I spoke with Marie. And then I called you privately and explained it to you. And you keep trying to bring in the vote. And for us, it's dangerous. And
I'm trying to find a solution for us, okay?
Breakout session, my friend. Breakout session.
All right, that's the end of it then.
We're moving on now, okay? Jeffrey?
I'll keep it quick. I, for one, really appreciate the ability to, meet virtually as we do. I think a lot of times information sessions, come up, or things that we need to vote on eventually, or at our board meeting, but can be handled here and not voted on at committee level. Now, maybe it's placing a degree on what type of project it is after we hear it at the information session. Something like Innovation Queens, we need to meet in person. We need to have the ability to speak in person. We need to have the ability to vote in person and move forward to the board with a clear direction on where the committee stands. Things like we saw today, we can either do a breakout session, or we could simply do what we did at the last board meeting where we get, the committee report, which goes out to all of us before the board meeting, has the items or the issues that we had at committee, good or bad, about a certain project. So, I think maybe it's like 3 degrees of projects that we review. The ones where we simply give a committee report, the ones where we have a breakout session at the board meeting, and the third one would be those big projects that we know are going to be controversial, and we know that we want to have a clear direction as a committee going to the board. And those are the ones that maybe we do need to meet in person. But like I said, I really and I don't know if that's within the rules, but like I said, I really appreciate the ability to meet virtually. I think we're all busy, and I think this, COVID has taught us one thing: we can do a lot virtually, and a committee meeting just like this where we're discussing, we can do. We can't have a legal vote. We get that. Let's do it in a breakout session, or if it's important enough, let's meet in person.
Okay,
That's my take.
okay. Andres?
Yeah, Jeffrey basically said like 99% of what I was going to say. I agree with everything he said. I think there is a distinction between the information stuff we can see online versus a bigger project where we should be in person, should definitely have like a solid in-person vote. And I have no problem coming 15-30 minutes early, if it's 6 or 6:15 to hash out a vote if necessary.
Okay. Jerry?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we're going to take the time to have an applicant come in front of us and present, and then wait 3 weeks later to do this breakout session, I think it's kind of like a waste of time. And I think it's wrong. I think we should meet in person with the applicant, have a regular like I've done for over 40 years, and vote and make our professional recommendation to the full board, not at a last minute, chaotically, as everybody knows who's been doing this with the breakout sessions. I think we should meet in person, maybe not at the community board, maybe a better venue because it's a very tight there. Maybe we find another location and do it the right way. That's my point.
Okay.
I would
But
second.
Jerry, let me just ask this though. There's certain things that come in front of us and understand, I've been on the, applicant side. I've been presenting to community boards. I understand the work that goes into it to present to us, and, the professionalism that's needed and always given to us in our way. But like, can't that be done, for example, things that were presented to us today in this venue? These items aren't too
I
controversial.
think
At least I
2
don't
weeks
think they
later,
are.
we're depending on what Liz writes down.
Except that you have to, Jerry, also keep in mind that the center themselves are, for them to come out here too is even more of a hassle than us. And maybe on smaller items like this, they're going to appreciate being able to be virtual themselves, because if they're coming from Manhattan to make the
So
meeting.
let me interrupt you, Richard, because that's where the hybrid meetings come in, where people can make their presentations virtually. But for us to vote, we have to be together.
Yeah.
Unless they change the
Okay.
rule.
I have my hand raised.
Yes, I see. Katie?
Thank you. I think this is really unfortunate. One of the benefits of being adaptable because of COVID is that participation is an opportunity for people that in the past wouldn't be able to make it to the community board office for whatever reason. And I'm very sad and concerned that the way things were before isn't necessarily the best way. And for level of participation and community members being able to watch the proceedings and listen to our conversation, there's way more now than there ever was. So to say that we mandatorily need to go back to the office Jeffrey's point about topics that are not contentious or don't require as much of mental load, that's my opinion, than something like Innovation Queens, I think is short-sighted and potentially a waste of time. So I would agree with Jeffrey, and I'm sorry the newer board member's name. I can't remember. I'm very sorry about that, but I would agree that we should continue to be able to try to make these meetings as accessible, adaptable, and open as possible by doing them remotely as much as we possibly can. And I understand it's an inconvenience to have to vote formally in person before a board meeting, but if we all have the gist of what that vote is going to be ahead of time, I personally don't think it's a big deal. It's just a matter of keeping within the legal limits of what we have to do and how we have to vote. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going back on the seconds. Evie?
No, sorry, I didn't put my hand up.
Down.
Yeah.
Thomas, you had your hand up?
Yes, we have the Robert's Rules of Order, right? They've partially been adopted for our community boards. That's where our lawyer is coming from. Those rules didn't contemplate something like Zoom meetings. If there's a modification that needs to be made at that level, then we should address it at that level using Florence as our mouthpiece to send a letter and request that that be modified for us to do so. However, at this point, under the current rubric of law coming from the borough president's office, is basically making us powerless, that we can't hold a vote. And I agree very much that if we're debating and someone's actually preparing a very well-researched and presented project to us, we should be able to give them the dignity of voting on it and that day. Also, the question of, are people who did not come to the information session able to cast a vote along with us who were here and informed? So it raises a lot of rules. If we can't change the adopted Robert Rules of Orders, or Robert Rule of Order rules, which we're having to follow for a quorum being present, then we are going to have to cast votes in person. And I would say that's what we're here for.
Yeah, well, yes, we have to have guidelines from the board or coming from us. How do we want to do this? And have the board implement these, whether it's the executive board or the board in general. So it's a set of guidelines on how we're going to operate. That's, at this point, most boards are doing the hybrid, where you have people meeting in one place and then other committee members are engaged. And also when you have that and you have the quorum in place, everybody can vote, even the remote people. So, I mean, it all depends on how you write it. And we don't have that guidance as yet. And that's what I'm asking this committee. How do you best want to deal with it? Do you want to stay the same? Do you want to just have the reports? I'm not a fan of breakout sessions. And I don't think the other 40 people in the room, when we have full attendance, are in favor of us being out of the room for 15 minutes. People want to go home after, they're there for the hearings and for the votes and not waiting for us to make a decision or a recommendation. So,
Do you need a motion?
No, we don't need a motion. Well, I think at this point, I think I'm going to get all of your comments together and let's go over it and let's see what's best. I'm not averse to doing in-person meetings. I certainly like the comfort of doing it from remotely. I think, but if we can't have a vote and if we have to do these breakout sessions, I am not in favor of that. I never liked them before. They get too crazy at times when people come and, have differing opinions from what we talked about at the committee level. So, it can get a bit chaotic. So that's why I'm not in favor of breakout sessions. So I will get this I will get these comments and these possibilities out to you We can pick it up again. But as for this next meeting, we have to now talk about the two applications that were before us and the recommendations, or, I mean, I can write a report that just describes what we heard. And that's it. If that's what this group wants to do.
Not a matter of-
Liz, can I ask just ask a quick question? Is it required that we vote on all items? I don't think it is.
It has
before
been-
it goes to the board.
Okay, it has always been the fact that the committee, I think Jerry's been on this committee longer than I have, that they have always made a recommendation to the board as a whole. They did the work for the board, basically, which is what we're doing. And, you know, sometimes they listen, sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't agree, but it's not very often that they don't agree. So, it's a matter of establishing a protocol for us to follow now that we have these new open law meetings, open meeting law regulations. So we'll do it then, you know, I'll write a description in the report. And that's it. And, you know, we'll discuss this, we'll take it back to the chair and see if the executive committee wants to come up. Does the executive committee think that perhaps we have to do something about this? I'm also not a fan personally of not having committees meet, which is what's been happening, you know, but I don't know if that's because they haven't gotten the issues or whatever it is. We always have issues in our committee. So it's not, you know, it's not an option. We have to meet, whether it's virtually or in person. So Evie, you have one more thing to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, perhaps the chairs, right? Because each month is different, right? Sometimes it's really just we're getting an information presentation. Sometimes we do need to vote on something. If it is, you know, and we can confirm this, right? But if it is possible to have a vote, if there is quorum in person, you know, then that's a great option for when we need to have a vote. I know it's hard sometimes for people who have young kids, right? Or if you're working far away, we could ascertain whether or not there's going to be enough people like in person to be able to take a vote, right, with a hybrid. So I'm just saying, like, maybe, you know, and we can figure this all out, but if that is the case where you can do a hybrid meeting, if you have quorum, enough people in person, you can still have a vote and everyone votes. Like, we could do that for those situations where we do require a vote, and then the chairs can determine, oh, we don't need to even have a hybrid meeting. We can just do all virtual this month because, you know, it's really just an informational presentation. And as long as, I guess, you know, even if we do hybrid meetings, I also agree that the breakout sessions can be disastrous. So I remember, because I've been on the committee for a long time too. And we don't, you know, we don't want to have 10 o'clock nights at the community board meeting. Yeah, I think sometimes they're fun.
Point of view on fun.
Yeah, we'll work on that, Jeffrey. But you know, that's also something I think just that we can possibly figure out once we have kind of all the information.
Yeah, all the options, get all the options together. Okay.
Actually, you know, she made a good point. We got to keep in mind. I remember I chaired committees here for 12 years. Do you know how often we had meetings and we didn't have quorums? I mean, we would be 60, 70% of the time. Half the time we ended up having to go to breakout meetings because nobody showed up. You know, there was more than one time when I sat with, you know, at a meeting and maybe one person would show up. And that's happened a lot. So, you know, not as much with this committee, I will have to say, but with the other committees, it happened all the time. And that is a good point that you make, Evie. I think that has to be kept into account too. So I don't think we're going to get away with not having breakout sessions because, you know, we're lucky to have quorums here half the time. You know, how many times does Florence have to make phone calls like crazy to get people to come on? So keep that in mind too. Anyway,
Okay, Florence,
If you would please go now and look in your emails. The lawyer sent the information. It's exactly what I told you. He sent it. I'm a little bit flabbergasted because I try to be kind and considerate and thoughtful to you guys, and I only want you to have great success in every single thing you do. And then when I try to share information, I'm always put down and I'm made to look like a bad guy. I would never misguide you. I would never. I mean, Colin will tell you how many times I call him double checking and triple checking information for you guys. And while I understand you want it in writing, I don't think you realize what's going on in the district and the community right now. And it's not always easy to get the other parties to give it in writing, because putting it on paper, it comes off one way and it's really meant in another way, so that you guys have the ease and the ability to use this forum without getting in trouble. Because it could be very easy for all of us to go back in person and stay at the office until 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. That's very easy to do. I have no problems with it. I'm trying to protect those of you who have health issues, those of you who work late, those of you who have small children, so that you're healthy and well. Numbers have been going up. Nobody talks about it. It's going into flu season. And instead of allowing me to share these facts with you, people are writing to Marie complaining about my behavior when I'm only genuinely caring for you.
okay, in the interest of,
Please look at the email now so you can finish.
excuse me?
It's in your email. The document you want is in all of your emails. I sent it to you.
It'll be incorporated into the information that we pass around to discuss this. I want to move on now. We have to take votes on this. Not sorry. We sound so ingrained in taking votes, but we have to discuss the consensus or the agreement or whatever. Is there any agreement? First one was 37th Avenue rezoning, the Rosenthal project.
I guess, do we make a motion on this? Is that?
No.
Just
discuss
Why
it.
don't I summarize?
Informal
Why don't-
discussion.
So we can
Richard.
bring this to an end.
Thank you, thank you.
Please, why don't we just say there was more positive comment than negative comment in the discussion, and leave it at that for your report. Otherwise, we're gonna go on forever.
Thank you. Are you all in agreement with that?
That works for me.
Sure.
You see, I'm not calling out names.
I'm fine with it.
I
Good
think
with
you said,
everybody, yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
fine.
everybody saw merits to this.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Okay,
also want to say that I sent an email after Florence's email. There's a citation to the open meeting laws of New York State, which I have never reviewed. But I
yeah,
sent an-
there's a new one, 2023. They put another one out, but it doesn't say, it's
just
not.
because of the citation.
Well, this letter seems to say that, unless I'm reading it wrong, that breakout sessions are legal. I mean, because you didn't have a quorum,
Information.
you know?
Okay, I don't want to discuss that right now. I want to read it because I don't have it up on my screen. I'm looking at 4 different things right now.
Go to the next item.
So the next item we have is the fresh, where is it? Yeah, the fresh supermarket, which is the authorization for an additional 12,000 square feet.
More
But
power
this,
to the-
this is not a Euler
Somebody
project.
should summarize.
Sorry.
Jeff, can you summarize? What was the consensus in summary?
oh, me? I mean, I think everyone was happy to see the fresh the fresh grocery market. I think Evie brought up some good points about the affordable housing and what we've asked for in the past. And I think we would like to see, as we always do, we would like to see more clarification or more, details on what exactly the affordable housing would be. I think, overall, I think we were all, in agreement with a lot of the giving them the additional square foot and the additional height that they were asking for, that they got because of the fresh supermarket.
Okay.
Did
And
I
I-
summarize it well?
Yes.
Anybody have
But
anything
the
else?
the other issue that came up was.
Call the question.
No, not finished. I was in the middle of saying something, Jerry, and so calling the question doesn't work. Um, with respect to the affordability of the project itself, which is affected somewhat by the 12,000 additional square feet that come in, there was the issue about the ability to have upper range in the percentage of AMI as opposed to, spreading it out evenly. They do an average, but is there anything that
We
they
could just,
say about that?
we could just call upon, I mean, this is what he's giving is what's required under the old 421A, but we can ask the developer to please consider, increasing the affordability of these apartments. We could ask him to, but we can't force him to, because it's he's within the requirements of the law, the old 421A. That
But
130.
do you as a community member agree that that's right? And do you have a suggestion to even it out, so to speak? Like put a maximum in AMI that they should be using, like 80% would be the highest that they can go. So it can be between 30 and 80 or whatever.
I mean, we could do it as a.
Yes, we can say whatever.
Recommendation.
We can ask recommendation, but we can't do it as a stipulation because it's not legal.
No.
I understand that.
Okay. Why don't we leave that up to you?
I'm sorry, Jerry, what?
Why don't you come up with something that you suggest?
Me?
No, Evan, housing.
Evie?
Housing. He's not bound by it, but the
Right.
board has an obligation, is what you just said, Liz. What we think is the right thing. He's not obligated. Will he do it? 99.9%. No, he's a developer. But that doesn't hurt. And I defer to the housing committee to come up with a recommendation.
Okay, but this isn't that housing committee.
It's not the housing committee.
No, I
But
know,
This
I
is
know.
housing.
Yeah.
We're dealing with housing and the affordability of housing. Otherwise, you could say every additional apartment should be 30% AMI. And just
No,
leave it
we
at that.
know that's not realistic, okay? We know that's not.
We
gonna-
know that he's not gonna do it, Liz. If
Doesn't
he's
matter.
not bound to it, he's not obligated. But guess what? The council person can listen to us and negotiate with him and say something else. But what are you gonna do? You gotta bring it to a close.
So, Richard, do you want to say something like that? Or,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We could just, or we could even be a little more, we can just say something, we call upon him to increase the affordability. So that and we can put a maximum of 80% if that sounds good.
okay,
Why not? It doesn't matter. I mean,
okay.
it matters in the sense that we are doing something that's better for the community, but he doesn't have to follow it. So
Before we close this, so this is going to be a positive thing,
yeah.
in agreement with it, but we have that one issue. But before, we go any further, I just want to say that I think we do have influence, as Jerry pointed out, with the elected people. And I think we should make a statement like that. This is, they're getting a bonus. They're getting a full floor area. for putting in the supermarket. And yes, it's appreciated, but you know, I don't know what it was 2 floors, did you say? Okay,
I mean, a supermarket could go in anyway, right? They just wouldn't get a
12,000
vote.
square feet.
yes, question is called now. Okay, so that's what will follow.
We
So
can't vote.
I'm not,
Can't vote.
We can't
I
vote.
don't know what
We
I
can't
need.
vote to close the meeting.
We can't.
That's true. I know. I laughed at that. I laughed at that when I was doing the minutes. I said, wait a minute, we can't do that.
All
So
we have to do is say good
we
night.
said, good night. That's right. But we have one. Okay, so I don't have any other issues. The next meeting is November 1st. Florence has her hand up. Should be the last one to speak.
I had sent you a private message. Did you want to take a look at it?
Yeah,
Which-
I have it.
Elizabeth,
No,
chat.
not now. I'm going to read it afterwards. Okay.
you
gonna
can't read it afterwards. The Zoom is closed.
What message are you talking about? I thought you were talking about the,
I'll just say it out loud. I asked you, would you like me to do a share screen to share the rules and regulations so you guys can discuss it now so that you can settle this among yourselves?
no, I think it would be better if the committee received a copy you can.
It already happened. I did it. That's what I informed you of before when you guys asked for it because you didn't hear what I said. You said you wanted it in writing. I received it in writing and I sent it to you in writing. I did it immediately.
Okay, great. That's right, because Thomas talked about it also, Jerry and Thomas. So we'll incorporate it
No
into
choice.
the information that we'll think about and see how we can come up with some kind of procedure. But at this point, this month, we're just going to give them a report it basically supports both of the projects with some issues that we brought up. Okay? Well, I'm going to say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We can't take a vote.
But you're, as chair, you can say you're all dismissed.
Yeah, thanks,
I'm not
Elizabeth.
gonna do that. It was good to see you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody.